Let me tell you something I've learned the hard way. Staying where you don't belong can cost you everything. It can drain your energy, shake your confidence, and rob you of the peace you didn't even realize you had. I know this because I've been there, stuck in places, with people, and in situations that made me question my worth. It's a heavy, suffocating feeling, isn't it? You keep telling yourself to hold on, to endure, to be strong, as if staying is the only proof of your resilience. But let me share a truth that changed my life. Sometimes your greatest strength lies in walking away. Now, I'm not saying leaving is easy. It's not. It takes courage, a kind of quiet, determined bravery that no one else might see or applaud. But it's worth it. When you learn to let go of what doesn't serve you, you discover a freedom you never thought possible. You stop fighting battles that aren't yours to win. You stop trying to fix things or people that don't want to be fixed. And in that space, the one you create when you choose yourself, you find clarity, power, and peace. I've been through moments where stepping away felt like failure. I worried about what people would think, what I'd lose, or whether I'd regret it later. But every time I chose to walk away from something toxic, I gained something far greater, a sense of control over my life. And I'm not talking about control over outcomes or circumstances. No, I'm talking about the kind of control that comes from knowing you're staying true to yourself. That's the kind of power no one can take from you. Here's the thing. Life will constantly pull you in 100 different directions. There will always be people demanding your time, situations testing your patience, and distractions tempting you to stray from your path. But you have a choice to stay tangled in the chaos or to step back and protect your peace. That choice is where your power lies. It's not about being better than anyone else or proving anything to the world. It's about recognizing what you need to thrive and having the courage to claim it. I've come to realize that walking away is an act of self-respect. It's a way of saying, I am worth more than this. And when you take that step, when you remove yourself from what no longer aligns with your values, you open the door to something better. You might not know exactly what that better looks like yet, and that's okay. Trust me, clarity comes when you create the space for it. So let me ask you this. What's holding you back? What are you clinging to that's keeping you from being at peace with yourself? It's not easy to confront these questions, but the answers hold the key to your freedom. Because when you learn to walk away, not out of anger, fear, or pride, but out of wisdom and self-respect, you unlock a power that's been waiting for you all along, and that's a lesson worth learning. Let's dive deeper into what it truly means to step away when something no longer serves you. This isn't about giving up or running from challenges. It's about reclaiming your power, your peace, and your sense of purpose. Too often, people confuse staying with strength, thinking that holding on is what makes them resilient. But I've learned, through my own struggles and mistakes, that the real strength lies in knowing when to let go. Let me show you why walking away, far from being a sign of weakness, is one of the boldest, most empowering moves you can make. Walking away begins with a deep sense of self-awareness. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on how much of our lives we waste on things outside our control, on people who drain us, on situations that breed frustration, or on outcomes that we obsess over but can't influence. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Think about that. How often do we hold on to things simply because we feel we should? Maybe it's a toxic relationship that you've convinced yourself you can fix, or a job that slowly chips away at your joy, but you stay because it's the responsible thing to do. The truth is, staying in these situations often costs far more than we realize. I've learned that walking away isn't just about leaving something behind. It's about stepping towards something better. When I say better, I'm not just talking about external improvements, like finding a healthier relationship or a more fulfilling career. I'm talking about the internal freedom that comes from knowing you're aligned with your values. Walking away allows you to shed what weighs you down so you can move closer to what lifts you up. It's like taking off a heavy backpack after carrying it for miles. Only then do you realize how much lighter and freer you feel. Sometimes the hardest part of walking away is dealing with the fear of judgment. Trust me, I've been there. You worry about what others will think, whether they'll see you as weak or selfish. But here's what I've come to understand. The opinions of others don't live your life for you. Marcus Aurelius said it best. It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. When you walk away, you're not betraying anyone. You're honoring yourself. And if someone sees your decision to protect your peace as selfish, that says more about their expectations than your worth. Walking away also teaches you the power of choice. Life doesn't happen to you. You choose how to respond. Staying in a bad situation often feels like the only option because fear clouds our judgment. But every step you take away from negativity is a step toward reclaiming your agency. I've experienced this firsthand. There was a time when I stayed in a toxic friendship far too long because I felt obligated to keep the peace. Every interaction left me drained, doubting myself and questioning my worth. When I finally made the decision to step back, I didn't just end the friendship. I reclaimed the energy I had been pouring into something that no longer served me. That choice felt like taking my life back. Another thing I've learned is that walking away is a lesson in trust, trusting yourself and the process. It's not easy to leave behind the familiar, even when it's harmful, but staying out of fear keeps you stuck. Marcus Aurelius believed that the universe works in harmony, and when we align ourselves with its flow, we find peace. Letting go doesn't mean you're abandoning responsibility. It means you're trusting that what's meant for you won't require you to sacrifice your well-being. Walking away can also shift your perspective. Sometimes we stay because we're too close to the problem to see it clearly. Taking a step back allows you to assess the situation with fresh eyes. It's like climbing a hill to look down at the path you've been walking. From that vantage point, you can see where you went wrong, where you wasted time, and where you need to go next. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to view life from a higher perspective, to see it as part of a larger, interconnected whole. When you walk away, you give yourself the distance needed to see the truth. One of the most surprising things I've learned is that walking away inspires courage in others. When you stand up and say, "This isn't for me," you show others that it's okay to prioritize their well-being too. I've had friends tell me that watching me walk away from something toxic gave them the strength to do the same in their own lives. That's the ripple effect of courage. It spreads far beyond you. Walking away also teaches you patience. It's not always about leaving in a moment of frustration or anger. It's about making a thoughtful decision to prioritize your peace. Marcus Aurelius often emphasized the importance of acting with reason and calm, not impulsivity. When you decide to step back, it's not an act of rage, it's an act of wisdom. It's saying, "I choose not to let this consume me any longer." Here's another thing I've realized. Walking away doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you erase the memories or pretend the situation didn't matter. It simply means you've outgrown it. Growth often requires letting go, and that's okay. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Everything that happens, happens as it should, and if you observe carefully, you will find this to be so." Walking away is part of the natural flow of life. It's how we make space for new opportunities, new growth, and new beginnings. Ultimately, Walking away is about empowerment. It's about recognizing that your time, energy, and peace are too valuable to waste. It's about standing tall and saying, "I deserve better." And when you do, you'll discover that walking away isn't just leaving, it's arriving at a version of yourself that's stronger, wiser, and more at peace. Marcus Aurelius knew this, and now so do you. Walking away is a powerful act, but its true value lies in what it protects. When you step back, you're not just leaving a situation behind, you're guarding something sacred, your peace, your clarity, your sense of self. Marcus Aurelius referred to this as your inner citadel, the unshakable fortress within you that holds your strength, wisdom, and resilience. Without it, the chaos of the outside world can seep in, tearing you apart bit by bit. I've come to understand that protecting this inner fortress isn't just an option, it's a necessity. Every moment you spend engaging with negativity, every ounce of energy you pour into battles that don't matter, is a crack in your citadel. It's a slow leak, one you might not notice at first, but over time, you feel drained, disconnected, and restless. The hardest lesson I've learned is that not every battle is worth fighting, and not every invitation to conflict deserves a response. Some things simply don't belong inside your walls, and the only way to protect yourself is through detachment. Detachment doesn't mean apathy. This is something a lot of people misunderstand. It's not about closing yourself off or refusing to care. It's about choosing what you care about wisely. Marcus Aurelius believed that we must guard our peace as fiercely as a fortress guards its gates. To him, the inner citadel was the part of you no one can touch unless you allow it. That's where your true power lies, in deciding what gets to enter your mind, influence your emotions, and shape your thoughts. For me, this realization came when I found myself constantly reacting to everything around me. Someone's criticism would throw me off for days. A rude comment would ruin my mood. I'd overthink every disagreement, replaying it in my head like a broken record. It wasn't until I stumbled upon Marcus Aurelius's writings that I understood the importance of detachment. He said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That one sentence changed everything for me. It made me realize that my peace wasn't being taken, it was being given away. Strategic detachment begins with understanding that your attention is your most valuable asset. What you focus on grows. If you focus on drama, negativity, or things you can't control, they expand in your mind, consuming more space than they deserve. But if you focus on what uplifts you, strengthens you, and aligns with your values, your inner fortress becomes impenetrable. This isn't about avoiding life's difficulties. It's about choosing your battles. It's about asking yourself, is this worth my peace? If the answer is no, then stepping back isn't just wise, it's necessary. Detachment also requires self-discipline. It's easy to get pulled into arguments or dragged down by other people's negativity, but every time you engage in unnecessary conflict, you hand over a piece of your inner fortress. Marcus Aurelius believed that we should approach life with a sense of calm and control, not because the world is perfect, but because our reaction to it determines our experience. He wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." That's where detachment begins, by realizing that you don't have to react to everything that happens. One of the most practical ways I've learned to guard my inner citadel is through boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls meant to keep everyone out. They're gates designed to let the right people and situations in. It took me a long time to understand this. I used to feel guilty about saying no, about stepping back from relationships or situations that drained me. But Marcus Aurelius reminded me that protecting my peace wasn't selfish. It was essential. When you set boundaries, you're not rejecting others. You're prioritizing yourself. Another key to detachment is emotional awareness. Emotions are powerful, and they can either protect your citadel or destroy it. Anger, for example, can feel like a justified response to disrespect or injustice. But Marcus Aurelius warned against letting anger control you. He believed that anger weakens your inner strength, leaving your fortress vulnerable. He said, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" When I started practicing emotional awareness, I realized how often I let small things snowball into bigger problems simply because I reacted impulsively. Now, I pause, I breathe, I ask myself, is this worth my energy? More often than not, the answer is no. Detachment also means letting go of outcomes. This is one of the hardest lessons I've had to learn. We all want things to go a certain way, and when they don't, it's easy to spiral into frustration or disappointment. But Marcus Aurelius taught that clinging to specific outcomes only creates suffering. He said, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which arm you against the present." Letting go of outcomes doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you trust yourself to handle whatever comes your way. Another lesson I've learned is the importance of creating a peaceful environment. Your surroundings play a huge role in the state of your inner citadel. If you're constantly surrounded by noise, chaos, or negativity, it's much harder to stay centered. For me, this meant decluttering not just my physical space, but my mental space as well. I started limiting my exposure to toxic conversations, reducing my time on social media, and seeking out environments that brought me calm. This doesn't mean isolating yourself. It means curating your life in a way that supports your peace. Finally, protecting your inner fortress requires self-compassion. Too often, we're our own worst critics, tearing ourselves down over mistakes or imperfections. Marcus Aurelius believed that we should treat ourselves with the same kindness we'd show a friend. He said, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." But I interpret this as being disciplined in your actions while also being forgiving of your humanity. Detachment isn't about perfection, it's about progress. When you learn to guard your peace through detachment, you're not just protecting yourself, you're building a life rooted in strength, clarity, and purpose. Marcus Aurelius understood that the world will always be full of challenges and distractions, but your inner citadel can remain untouched if you choose to keep it that way. And that's a choice worth making every single day. When you start guarding your inner peace, something remarkable happens. You realize how much of your energy has been wasted on things you can't control. The more you protect your inner fortress, the more clarity you gain about what truly matters. But here's the catch. Holding on to what's beyond your control is like gripping sand. The tighter you hold, the more it slips away. This is where the real challenge lies, learning to let go. Letting go isn't weakness, it's freedom. It's the paradox of true power. By releasing what you cannot control, you take back control over yourself. I've struggled with this more times than I can count. There were moments in my life when I fought to hold on to people, situations, and outcomes, thinking that if I just tried harder, I could make everything work. But all it did was exhaust me. The harder I clung to the things slipping away, the more powerless I felt. It wasn't until I learned to let go that I understood what Marcus Aurelius meant when he wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Letting go isn't about giving up. It's about redirecting your energy toward the things you can actually influence, yourself and your values. One of the most liberating lessons I've learned is that control is often an illusion. We think we can change people or dictate outcomes, but the truth is, most of life is beyond our control. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that the only thing we truly own is our mind, our thoughts, our actions, and how we choose to respond to the world. Everything else, from other people's opinions to unforeseen circumstances, is outside our domain. When you stop trying to control what's uncontrollable, you free yourself from a tremendous amount of stress and disappointment. Letting go also means releasing toxic ties. This can be one of the hardest things to do because relationships often come with deep emotional attachments. But I've learned that holding on to toxic relationships out of fear or obligation only drags you down. Whether it's a friendship, a family bond, or a romantic relationship, staying tied to something that poisons your peace is like drinking poison yourself. Marcus Aurelius believed that we should strive for harmony in our relationships, but he also recognized the importance of walking away when that harmony becomes impossible. He said, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." Letting go of toxic ties isn't about cutting people off impulsively. It's about recognizing when the relationship no longer aligns with your values or supports your well-being. One thing I've had to learn is that letting go requires forgiveness, not just of others, but of yourself. Forgiveness doesn't mean condoning bad behavior. It means freeing yourself from the chains of resentment. I used to hold on to grudges, thinking they gave me power over those who hurt me. But all they did was keep me stuck in the past, reliving the pain over and over. Marcus Aurelius believed in the importance of rising above the actions of others. He wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." When you let go of grudges, you reclaim the energy you've been wasting on anger and redirect it toward growth. Letting go is also about releasing the need for validation. This is something I struggled with for years. I wanted people to approve of my choices, to see my worth, and to affirm my decisions. But chasing external validation is a never-ending race. You'll never truly win because the finish line keeps moving. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." When you stop seeking approval from others, you gain the freedom to live authentically, guided by your values instead of other people's expectations. Another area where letting go is transformative is in dealing with failure. I used to fear failure so much that it often paralyzed me. But Marcus Aurelius saw failure not as something to avoid, but as something to learn from. He believed that setbacks were opportunities to grow, saying, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." When you let go of the fear of failing, you open yourself up to growth. Failure stops being something to dread and becomes a stepping stone towards success. Letting go also means embracing uncertainty. Life is unpredictable, and no amount of planning can prepare you for every twist and turn. I've learned that trying to control every outcome only leads to frustration. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which arm you against the present." When you release the need to predict and control the future, you free yourself to live fully in the present. You stop worrying about what might happen and start appreciating what is. One of the most surprising benefits of letting go is the sense of clarity it brings. When you stop holding on to things that no longer serve you, you make room for what truly matters. For me, this meant letting go of old dreams that no longer aligned with who I was becoming. It wasn't easy. I felt like I was betraying my younger self. But Marcus Aurelius reminded me that life is always in motion, and growth often requires shedding the old to make way for the new. He said, "Observe constantly that all things take place by change. Letting go isn't about abandoning your dreams. It's about allowing them to evolve with you. Letting go teaches you the value of focusing inward. When you stop wasting energy on things outside your control, you can turn that energy towards self-improvement." Marcus Aurelius believed that our true power lies in cultivating virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Letting go of distractions allows you to focus on becoming the best version of yourself. It's not about being perfect. It's about striving for progress every day. Letting go isn't easy, but it's one of the most empowering things you'll ever do. It's not about surrendering or giving up. It's about choosing where to direct your energy. Marcus Aurelius understood that the key to freedom lies in relinquishing what you cannot control. When you let go, you don't lose. You gain clarity, peace, and a deeper connection to yourself and your values. And that, my friend, is where true power begins. When you learn to let go, you clear the path to focus on what truly matters. But even with clarity, decisions can feel heavy. Life throws complexities at you, situations where emotions cloud judgment or where urgency blinds you to the bigger picture. Here's something I've realized. Clarity often comes when you take a step back. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't to act immediately, but to pause, create distance, and view the situation from a different vantage point. It's in this space that wisdom is born. I used to think that making decisions meant tackling issues head-on, diving into every detail until I found a solution. But the harder I pushed, the more tangled things became. Marcus Aurelius taught me that distance is not avoidance. It's a tool for insight. He often meditated on the vastness of the universe and his place within it. This practice helped him detach emotionally and see problems with a clearer, more objective mind. When I started doing this, everything shifted. Decisions became less about reacting and more about responding with purpose. One of the first lessons I learned about stepping back is how it neutralizes the grip of emotions. Emotions are powerful, and while they're an essential part of being human, they can also mislead us. Anger, fear, or even excitement can distort reality, making us act impulsively or cling to things that don't serve us. By creating distance, whether physically, mentally, or emotionally, you give yourself the chance to let those emotions settle. It's like watching muddy water clear when you stop stirring it. Only when the water is still can you see what lies beneath. I remember a time when I was in a heated argument with someone I cared about. I was so wrapped up in proving my point that I couldn't see how much damage I was doing to the relationship. Taking a step back wasn't easy. It felt like I was letting them win. But in that space, I realized the argument wasn't about the issue at hand. It was about my ego. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you." That pause, that distance, gave me the perspective to approach the situation with compassion instead of defensiveness. Creating distance isn't just about emotions. It's also about seeing patterns you might miss when you're too close. Have you ever looked at a painting up close and seen only random brushstrokes? But when you step back, the full picture emerges. Life is the same way. When you're too involved in the details of a problem, it's hard to see the connections, the patterns, or the bigger story. Marcus Aurelius reflected on this often, reminding himself to view life from a higher vantage point, where the interconnectedness of events became clear. For me, this practice has helped me make decisions not just for the moment, but for the long term. Another way stepping back has helped me is by providing clarity about my priorities. When you're caught up in the noise of daily life, everything feels urgent, and it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. Creating distance allows you to assess what's worth your energy and what's not. Marcus Aurelius often advised focusing only on what is essential, saying, "If you seek tranquility, do less." For me, this has meant learning to say no more often, not out of laziness, but out of a commitment to what aligns with my values. Stepping back can also help you break free from the influence of others. I've noticed how easy it is to get swayed by the opinions and expectations of people around you. Their voices can become so loud that you lose track of your own. But when you create space, you can separate their desires from your own. Marcus Aurelius knew this well, often reminding himself not to let the crowd dictate his actions. He wrote, "We love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." By stepping away, you create the silence needed to hear your inner voice. Distance also provides the opportunity to reflect on your options with greater objectivity. When you're in the thick of a decision, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the what-ifs and maybes. But when you step back, you can evaluate your choices without the pressure of immediate action. This isn't about overthinking. It's about thoughtful consideration. I've found that journaling helps with this. Writing down my thoughts and options creates a kind of mental distance, allowing me to analyze the situation as if I were advising a friend. This practice is something Marcus Aurelius himself did. His meditations were a way for him to process his thoughts and gain clarity. Stepping back physically can be just as powerful as stepping back mentally. Sometimes, simply changing your environment can shift your perspective. I've had moments where taking a walk or spending time in nature gave me the clarity I couldn't find sitting at my desk. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the natural world, using its constancy and beauty as a reminder of life's greater rhythms. When you step out of your usual space, you're reminded that the world is vast, and your problems, though significant, are not insurmountable. Creating distance also allows you to approach decisions with patience. In a world that values quick fixes and instant gratification, patience is a rare and powerful skill. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Take the time you need to deliberate, but when the time for action comes, stop thinking and go in." This balance between thoughtful reflection and decisive action is something I strive for daily. By stepping back, you can avoid rash decisions and ensure that when you do act, it's with clarity and conviction. One of the most profound lessons I've learned about perspective is that stepping back doesn't mean stepping away forever. Sometimes it's just about pausing long enough to regain your footing before moving forward. Marcus Aurelius believed that life is like a river, constantly flowing and changing. When you step back, you're not abandoning the current, you're positioning yourself to navigate it more effectively. Perspective is a gift that grows with practice. The more you step back, the more you realize how often we make mountains out of molehills. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply, often reflecting on how small our lives are in the grand scheme of the universe. This wasn't meant to diminish the importance of our choices, but to remind us not to get lost in the drama of the moment. By creating distance, you gain the clarity to make decisions that align with your values and move you closer to the life you want. Stepping back has transformed the way I approach challenges, relationships, and even myself. It's not always easy to pause when everything in you wants to act, but the wisdom and clarity it brings are worth it. Marcus Aurelius knew that the power of perspective lies in its ability to bring calm to chaos, order to confusion, and direction to uncertainty. When you take the time to see life from a distance, you're not just making better decisions, you're building a life rooted in purpose and peace, and that is a power worth embracing. When you step back and see life from a distance, something becomes clear. There are moments when staying isn't strength, but a slow erosion of it. It's one thing to face challenges head-on and grow from them, but it's another to stay in situations or relationships that chip away at your energy, your confidence, and your peace. Sometimes the bravest act isn't holding on, it's letting go. Leaving takes courage, and that kind of courage isn't always celebrated. But trust me, it's one of the most life-affirming decisions you'll ever make. I've wrestled with this myself more times than I can count. There were relationships I clung to, not because they were good for me, but because I was afraid of the void their absence might leave. There were jobs I stayed in, not because they aligned with my values, but because I feared the uncertainty of starting over. Each time, staying drained me more than the act of leaving ever could. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This wisdom applies just as much to staying in the wrong situation as it does to taking the wrong action. Walking away isn't about giving up. It's about choosing what's right for you. Courage begins with honesty. Before you can muster the strength to leave, you need to face the truth about what's holding you back. Is it fear, comfort, the opinions of others? For me, it was often a mix of all three. But Marcus Aurelius taught that external factors like these should never dictate our actions. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Courage grows when you stop giving power to the things you can't control and start focusing on what you can, your choices, your actions, your values. I've also learned that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's a quiet resolve to do what's best for you, even when it feels uncomfortable or uncertain. There's a kind of strength in walking away from what's familiar, even if it's draining, and stepping into the unknown. Marcus Aurelius believed in acting with purpose, not out of impulsiveness or emotion. He said, "Don't act as if you have 10,000 years to throw away. Death stands at your elbow. Be good for something while you live, and it is in your power." Staying in a situation that drains you is a kind of slow death, a death of your energy, your peace, and your potential. One of the most important lessons I've learned is that leaving isn't just about escaping what's bad. It's about making room for what's good. Every time I've had the courage to leave something toxic behind, I've been amazed at the opportunities and growth that followed. It's like clearing out a cluttered room. You don't fully appreciate the space until you've made it. Marcus Aurelius believed in aligning your actions with your values, and sometimes leaving is the only way to stay true to those values. Courage also requires trusting yourself. When you stay in draining situations, it's often because you doubt your ability to handle what comes next. I've been there, clinging to a bad job because I wasn't sure I could find another, or staying in a friendship that hurt me because I feared being alone. But every time I've taken the leap, I've discovered strength I didn't know I had. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." When you leave, you're not abandoning security, you're creating change, and with it, the chance to build a life that aligns with your values. Leaving also requires you to face the opinions of others, and this can be one of the hardest parts. People may question your choices, misunderstand your reasons, or judge you for stepping away. But Marcus Aurelius taught that the opinions of others are not our concern. He said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. Courage is learning to value your peace over the approval of others. It's realizing that you don't need anyone's permission to prioritize your well-being." I've found that walking away also teaches you resilience. It's not just about leaving, it's about rebuilding, sometimes from scratch. This can be intimidating, but it's also empowering. Marcus Aurelius believed in focusing on what's within your control, and when you leave a draining situation, you reclaim that control. You take back the energy you've been giving to something that doesn't serve you and redirect it toward creating a life that does. Another thing I've learned is that courage doesn't mean being fearless. It means acting despite your fear. Leaving will likely come with uncertainty, and that's okay. Fear of the unknown is natural, but Marcus Aurelius taught that fear should never be the deciding factor in our choices. He wrote, "Do not be afraid of what is outside of you, but be afraid of what is within you, which does injustice to you and others." Staying in a situation that drains you is an injustice to yourself. Courage is choosing to honor your potential over your fear. Walking away also requires you to redefine strength. Society often equates strength with endurance, with sticking it out no matter what, but true strength lies in knowing when to let go. Marcus Aurelius understood this well. He believed in the importance of acting with wisdom and integrity, even if it meant going against the grain. He said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When you stay in a draining situation, it's like letting your soul absorb the negativity around you. Leaving allows you to restore your inner vitality and align your actions with your highest self. Ultimately, the courage to leave is about choosing yourself, your values, your well-being, and your potential. It's about understanding that staying in a situation that diminishes you isn't loyalty. It's self-neglect. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the fleeting nature of life and the importance of living with purpose. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This isn't about fearing death. It's about valuing life enough to walk away from anything that doesn't honor it. Leaving isn't always easy, but it's one of the most courageous things you can do. It's a declaration that your energy, your peace, and your values are worth protecting. And every time you muster the strength to walk away, you're not just leaving something behind, you're stepping toward a life of integrity, purpose, and freedom. Marcus Aurelius knew this, and now so do you. As we come to the end of this journey, I want you to pause for a moment and reflect on everything we've explored together. From the courage it takes to walk away to the clarity that comes from stepping back and the strength found in letting go. The lessons of Marcus Aurelius remind us that true power isn't about control over others. It's about mastery over ourselves. Walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the decision to protect your peace, honor your values, and create space for growth. I know firsthand how hard it can be to let go of the familiar, to step back when every part of you wants to hold on, or to leave behind what no longer serves you. But here's what I can promise you. Every time you walk away from what drains you, you're walking toward a stronger, freer, and more authentic version of yourself. That's a journey worth taking. Now, I want to hear from you. What resonated with you the most? Are there situations in your life where you've had to summon the courage to walk away? Or are you facing a moment right now where these lessons could help? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your story and continue this conversation with you. And if this video brought you value, don't forget to hit subscribe. We're building a space here for wisdom, growth, and meaningful conversations, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. Until next time, remember, your greatest power rests not in holding on, but in knowing when to let go. Take care and keep moving forward.